Hello, Father Mark Wagner here, and welcome to day number 14 of the Bible in a Year, and we're looking at Genesis chapter 27 and 28, and we're hearing about the patriarch Jacob. And before getting into that, just kind of what we're doing here is learning how to read the Bible, and one of the things I've learned about understanding the Bible is that you don't take every little detail always and focus on every little detail. For example, I once heard that parables, when Jesus tells stories or parables, usually a parable in the ancient world, they would tell a parable and everybody understood that it has a main point, has one main point. For example, in chapter 18 of Luke, Jesus tells a parable about, as it says, the necessity to pray always. And it talks about this judge who neither feared God nor respected any human being, and he was kind of grumpy, and then this widow came and wanted, begged him, used to come and render a decision for me against my adversary, kept insisting. And for a long time he was unwilling, but then he thought, this widow is bothering me, and she's going to come and hit me if I don't. And so he, helped her. And then Jesus said, in the same way, your Father in heaven will hear you if you and give justice to you if you insist and continue and pray and ask and knock, right? Continue to insist. Well, the point of that, nobody's going to say that that parable is telling people that it's okay to be grumpy, or that it's good or that God the Father is is a grumpy judge like that. So you kind of take a main point. Okay, all right. So we've got these Old Testament stories, and in chapter 27 we've got this story of Isaac, who's getting old, and his eyes are dim, as it says, and he knows he's about to die, and so he's got to bless his oldest son, Esau. And so we know the story. He wants to bless him, but then Rebecca, she likes the second older son, Jacob, better, and so she kind of slips him in there with some of Esau's clothes and perfume and some hairy skins on his skin, so that his skins would feel rough like Esau. He was an outdoorsman. Jacob was kind of a mama's boy and kind of soft and all, as it says. Jacob said, "My brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man." So Jacob was kind of he wasn't going to be getting Isaac's blessing, and so Rebecca clothed him and dressed him up and prepared some food, and then Jacob then goes in and lies, bald-faced lies, right? Says, "I am Esau. Who are you? I am Esau." And then Isaac touches him and feels him, and he says, "Oh, the voice is Jacob's, but the hands are those of Esau." And then "Who are you really, my son Esau?" And he says, "I am." So, is this saying that it's okay to lie? And are all the stories about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, are all these stories saying that if these folks, our ancestors, did these bad things, that it's okay to do those things just because it's in the Bible? No, it has spiritual meaning. Father Michael Schmitz keeps repeating that one of the meanings is that these are our ancestors, and these are our peeps, these are our people, and they're broken, but God can, never stops being faithful to his covenant, even though we, his people, are unfaithful. So that's one point, and that's true. But I really think that it's important to also understand that throughout the Bible, it's something called typology, that these are types of Christ, that Jesus Christ is the reason for the whole Bible, that all the people in the Old Testament, they're kind of, things happen to them that are kind of like what happened to Jesus. And And then, of course, for 2,000 years in the church, we've got saints who are like other Christs, and their lives kind of mirror Christ, and some of them even, look like Christ or had the stigmata, or they imitated Christ or gave their lives like Christ, or, said and did things we think of Stephen he was dying and he said, forgive them for they know not what they do. All of us have to be like Christ. People before Christ, people after Christ. Christ is the center of history, and he's the reason for this season. I mean, he's a reason for everything. And that's the reason for this story too. Basically, and all these little funny stories about how the older son gets left out and the younger one gets the blessing and the inheritance. It's all about us. We basically are the one who we've got to, like Jacob, hold on to the heel of our older brother and somehow get the blessing. That's how he was born. That's what Jacob means, is heel. And so Jesus Christ ascends into heaven. We've got to hold on tight. And Jesus, the older brother, died, but we get the inheritance. And so this is kind of all the sort of mysterious meaning of these stories. I'd also like to say that there's a Catholic sort of interpretation of this story too, in a famous book called The True Devotion to Mary by St. Louis de Montfort. Many saints, including Pope St. John Paul II, loved this devotion to Mary, which was kind of like consecrating yourself to Mary, but it has a whole big chapter that interpreting this story from chapter 27 of Genesis in a Marian way. There's a lot of parts of the Bible you can find a Marian interpretation. And basically, of course, what it means is that Rebecca is kind of like the Blessed Virgin Mary, who is, we say, the mediatrix of all graces. She can clothe us with the graces of Jesus Christ, her Son. She can mold us in her womb with her immaculate hands, and she can make us more like Jesus so that we're presentable, so that we can be presented to God the Father. And not that God the Father's blind or that we lie to him or anything, but it's that, we're going to get the blessing because Our Lady, and we need to be like Jacob and trust, and not trust in our own power or strength or toughness, but to let Our Lady clothe us, and then we can get a blessing. There's also finally another beautiful story at the end of this section, or in chapter 28, about Jacob's ladder, which they say it wasn't really a ladder; it was more like a staircase, because back then they would have, the word kind of indicates that. But Jacob had this dream. He was sleeping in a certain place and put a rock under his head, and then he dreamed about a ladder to heaven that reached up to heaven. And they say that word kind of reminds us of the Tower of Babel that people wanted to build their own way. But they say that this ancient story is a symbol of Christ, because Christ is the true Jacob's ladder, and angels ascending and descending. Even Jesus said himself that, you will see the Son of Man with angels ascending and descending. Jesus said he is the ladder, the way to heaven.